Hello, MS890, and welcome to our first episode of Just a Taste. Today we are going to be exploring a little bit of Guatemalan culture and learning how to make plátanos rellenos and Guatemalan hot chocolate. So to start off, I want to show you and explain to you a little bit about Guatemalan culture. So I put together some fun textiles and stuff for you guys to check out. So Guatemala is in Central America, as you see in this map, which is in the back of this record I have. So Guatemala, some of the neighboring countries surrounding Guatemala are Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, which actually used to be part of Guatemala, and this is the map. So this is Guatemala right here. See? All right. Here's some Guatemalan money. Guatemalan money. These are the coins. So these are called quetzales. $1 US is worth 7 to 8 Guatemalan quetzales. So US money is worth 7 to 8 times as much as Guatemalan currency. So Guatemala is known for its coffee, it's known for its chocolate, and also known for its textiles. So here are some really cool textiles, all hand woven, and believe it or not, there are more than 20 different Mayan indigenous villages in Guatemala, and they each have their own dialect, and they each have their own distinct weaving patterns. So if you notice, some of these patterns, they're all hand woven, but the techniques that they use are very different actually. This is what you call a huipil. I'm not sure which region of Guatemala it's from, but this is traditional indigenous clothing. This is another huipil. This one I know is from San Lucas, which is right outside of Antigua, which is a very popular part of Guatemala. It's UNESCO heritage site, and it used to actually be the capital of Guatemala until there were earthquakes and it was flooded a few times, and so they ended up having to move the capital from Antigua to Guatemala City, which is now still the capital of Guatemala. All right, so are you guys ready to do some cooking? I hope so, because I am really excited to cook some plátanos rellenos with you, and I'm even more excited to eat them. Hopefully they're delicious. It's actually going to be my first time making them, so hopefully it all goes well. Wish me luck. All right, guys, so are you guys ready to start cooking? Make sure to wash those hands nice and thoroughly. We want to make sure our hands are nice and clean before we start touching the food, right? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make plátanos rellenos, right? So in order to make plátanos rellenos, you really don't need too many ingredients. You need plátanos. You're going to need black beans. Maybe you already have some refried beans at home that are already made. If not, and you don't have too much time on your hands, you can buy canned refried beans. This is one of my favorite brands. I think their beans are delicious. You're gonna need cinnamon sticks, and sugar. Also, a little bit of vegetable oil. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to cut up our plátanos, right? So we're gonna cut off the ends first. Okay. And then we're gonna cut them in 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna cut this next one. We're gonna cut the ends first. And we're gonna cut the plátano in 3. Okay. So that's probably the easiest part. That's probably the easiest part, right? So now we're gonna take these plátanos, we're gonna put them in a pot. We're gonna fill this up with water. We're gonna take some of our cinnamon sticks. And we're gonna stick those in the water, and then we're gonna let that boil. All right, so now we just have to wait for that to boil. All right, so you may be wondering why the plátanos are so dark and they almost look rotten, right? The darker the plátano, the sweeter it is. So it's okay for it to be black. It's okay to be a little bit soft. You want that sweetness in your plátano when you're making plátanos rellenos. Okay, so having really dark plátanos is actually a really, really good thing because it'll add flavor. Okay, so while our plátanos are boiling in the hot water, while they're cooking, we are going to prepare our refried beans, right? So we want to add just a little bit more flavor to the beans. So we're going to do that by sauteing some onion with a little bit of oil in a pan. All right, so we have our onions and we have our oil in the pan. Now what we want is we want the onions to brown a little bit. And we want the pan to kind of get that like oniony flavor. So we're going to make sure that the oil is spread out around the pan, and we're going to just let those onions brown a little bit before we add the contents of the can in this pan. Guatemala is such a beautiful country. I was actually born in the United States, and it wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I traveled to Guatemala. But I absolutely love it. I love the culture. I love the food. And I have to say that I really felt connected to the Guatemalan culture my whole life. And so when I went to Guatemala for the first time, it felt like I felt a connection to the country, you know? It felt like home, which is funny because I had never actually been there. But I think it's just because my family, my parents did such a great job instilling Guatemalan culture and values that even though I was born in the United States and I'm a US American, I'm equally parts Guatemalan. Alright, so our onions have browned. So now it's time to take these canned beans and get them in our pan. Okay, and now this is the scary part for me because I'm always afraid of the oil burning me. So be careful when you add the beans, please. So we get all these beans in there. Okay, and I'm going to just put this in the sink. Alright, so now we are going to just keep stirring these beans until they're like a nice smooth texture. See, like right now, I don't know if you can see them, but they are a little bit chunky, but we want them to be nice and smooth. Make sure you take out the onions before putting the beans in here. Okay, because the onions that we sauteed in this pan are just for flavor, but we don't actually keep them in here. The pan and the oil in the pan is already flavored with that oniony taste, so we don't actually need the onions to be in here. Alright, so now the beans are getting nice and smooth and they're getting nice and velvety. See? Nice and smooth. So now I'm going to add just a touch of salt to the beans, just to add a little bit of flavor. And of course, after I add the salt, we need to have a little bit of a taste test, right? We want to make sure that the beans are nice and... Thanks for watching Just a Taste.